WebPageTest by Catchpoint is a free website testing tool. Compared to Google's PageSpeed Insights, it provides a more in-depth, technical analysis of your page load time. In this video, I'll explain how to use WebPageTest and what to look for in test results to know what's slowing down your website. To run a test, go to catchpoint.com/webpagetest and enter your website URL. Your page speed metrics depend on the users that are coming to your website. You can pick a test location, device form factor, and network connection speed. I'm going to run a test from Europe on a mobile device with a regular 4G connection. Once the test is complete, the Summary tab provides a lot of metrics and a film strip view showing what the rendering process of your website looks like. If we look at the film strip, we can see that it starts out with a blank page. At 1.3 seconds, we get this blue marker around the white box, indicating the time to first byte. That means the browser has received some page data, but isn't ready to display any content yet. Once we get to about 2.4 seconds, we get the first contentful paint, and the user can actually see something. And then the main image loads after 2.6 seconds, which is recorded as the largest contentful paint rendering milestone. Below the result of the on-demand synthetic test that we've just run, you can also view real user metrics from Google. This data comes from the Chrome User Experience Report that offers a public dataset of web performance of many different websites. Crocs is recorded as a 28-day rolling average, so changes on your website aren't reflected instantly. We can also click on Full Report to view more information on the Google data. However, the Crocs dashboard is deprecated. Google's Crocs Viz tool can provide additional real user performance data. You can also use the DebugBear website speed test to see historical core web vitals metrics from the Crocs dataset, a more detailed analysis of the largest contentful paint metric based on real user data, how visitors navigate around your website, for example using back-forward navigations or page reloads, and how fast a typical visit network is. The waterfall view is maybe the most useful feature of WebPageTest. It tells you when different resources are loading during the page load process. The first request is always the HTML document. This file then references other resources that need to be downloaded. In this case, it takes about 1.6 seconds to download the document. Before the request can be made, a server connection is required, and this takes 3 steps to set up. The DNS lookup in teal, where the browser obtains a server IP address based on the domain name. The TCP connection in orange, which establishes a reliable server connection. And finally, the SSL connection in purple, which establishes a secure encrypted connection. Once that's done, the actual HTTP request can be made, which you can see by the blue bar. Finally, different chunks of response data arrive. These are marked by the darker blue lines placed on top of the light blue bar. This breakdown we just looked at can tell you what factors impact the duration of a specific network request. Now, let's look at what happens after loading the document. We can see the second request is an SVG image. That's loaded from a new domain, so we again need to set up a server connection. The fourth request is a render blocking CSS stylesheet file. We can see there is render blocking based on the X icon on the left of the waterfall row. Page content can only show after all render blocking resources have loaded. We can see that the first contentful paint, marked by the green line, happens just a bit after the CSS download is complete. What's causing that delay? If we check the bottom of the waterfall, we can see that the browser main thread is active. There's a lot of rendering work that's required to display the page content once it's been downloaded. The browser is also loading 3 font files, which are shown in red. You can see that one of those has a lot more dark lines than the others. That indicates that the file is larger than the others, and more data chunks are required to load the file. If we click on the first font, we see it's a 200 kilobyte file, while the others are under 20 kilobytes. Finally, we want to look at the image that's triggering the largest contentful paint. In this case, that's request number 11. We can confirm that by expanding the request and looking at the response body. And then a bit after the LCP image is loaded, we see the dashed dark green line marking the main image has rendered. The request waterfall tells you what's happening when your website loads and how long each step takes. Based on that, you can see what's causing delays. Are files too big and take a long time to download? Do servers send the first response chunk too slowly? Are extra server connections delaying requests? Or are requests sent later than they should be? Based on that, you'll know if you need to optimize backend performance, improve image compression, or speed up server connections. For example, this website uses a pre-connect tag in the HTML. This tells the browser to connect to a server early, in this case, googleanalytics.com. In the waterfall, the pre-connect hint shows up like this. The connection and the HTTP request are separated from each other. When the browser realizes it should load this file, the connection has already been prepared and the HTTP request can be sent right away. WebPageTest also provides some additional analysis of resources loaded on the page, as well as an analysis of slow CPU processing. The Assets tab gives your website grades across different categories. For example, the compressed transfer assessment tells you that server responses are compressed with an algorithm like gzip or Broadly. However, if you scroll down to the optimization details, we can see that there are still a few files that are not compressed yet. The JavaScript tab reports the types of processing that impact your website performance. For example, here we can see that a lot of time is spent on layout work. That aligns with our earlier observation that there's a significant delay between when a file is downloaded and when the content that depends on the file is actually displayed. Catchpoint recently made a bunch of changes to WebPageTest, so you might be looking for an alternative way to measure your page speed. The free DebugBear speed test provides a similar analysis of your website speed, as well as detailed performance recommendations. The request waterfall shows you how large each file is, and what priority the browser has assigned to each resource. A mini film strip and CPU view at the top also makes it easy to correlate rendering events with what's happening on the network. You can also easily tell what files are render blocking, preloaded, or have a fetch priority resource hint attached to them. The recommendations section identifies specific performance issues for you and suggests potential fixes. If you use our main product instead of the free test, you can also try out these fixes by running an experiment. For example, here we can try telling the browser to prioritize the LCP image to see how that is going to impact our scores. DebugBear also includes ongoing synthetic website monitoring and real user analytics for core web vitals and other website performance metrics. Identify slow pages on your website and get alerted when something goes wrong. The before and after comparisons make it easy to discover the root cause of a regression. For example, here's the LCP element change from a background image to the cookie banner, resulting in a worse LCP score. Our real user monitoring product tells you how actual visitors experience your website. View how page speed varies by visitor location or network speed. You also get detailed debug data to fix poor page speed and slow user interactions. Sign up for a free trial at debugbear.com.